Right, hey guys, how are we doing? So I apologise for the lighting. Gone to record and the bulbs just gone. They moved into this place just a week ago. I'm just like, nah, actually, no, it's been a few weeks though. And there seems to be something every day. So this is alright for now. I haven't got any bulbs, but I really want to check this out. What if Obito saved Rin? Is a really, really interesting question, because if that was the case, right, Obito wouldn't go off and be all crazy and the war wouldn't happen, surely. Surely he wouldn't even, like, help Madara, like, with his little plan for the whole thing. So it would change everything. It would change so much. So let's see what would happen if Obito did save Rin.
How's it going, fellas? Swag Hug Day here.
Yay!
Today, we're going to be performing a fun thought experiment, answering what I think is a pretty interesting question. Now, the title probably already gave you a pretty clear idea of what we're going to be discussing.
Yes.
But just for the sake of being thorough, I'll go ahead and explain the premise in a bit more detail.
Cool.
The idea here is that, unlike in the main series, or the original timeline, I guess, after leaving the cave where Madara had been keeping him, Obito was able to regroup with Rin and Kakashi fast enough to save them from the Blood Mist Ninja. Now, at first glance, and I guess this may depend on how familiar you are with the series and its finer details, a lot of the effects that this is going to have probably won't be readily apparent. I know when I first started thinking about this, I recognized a lot of the cool things that this could lead to, but the domino effect ended up reaching a lot further than I expected. Despite the fact that Obito and Rin are the only characters mentioned in the premise we're using for this video, a surprisingly small amount of what happens as a result of this is directly adjacent to them. This has a lot of far-reaching consequences.
This is going to affect so much stuff.
Let's start simple and focus on the direct immediate aftermath. So, first of all, since we've prevented Rin's death, that also means we've eliminated the catalyst for Kakashi and Obito awakening their Mangekyo Sharingan.
Okay,
Obviously,
that's an
they can
interesting
still
one.
do it at some point in the future,
but it's
something
not
else
right
would
there.
have to prompt it.
Right.
Something else that should be fairly obvious is that when Guru realizes that Madara's plan failed and Obito actually has no intentions of going back to the cave, he'll probably split off from the group and head back to Madara. Now, at this point, there are still a lot of factors to consider, the most important one being the whole Rin Three-Tails situation. So, based on the way I interpreted it, I don't think Rin was supposed to find out that she was Isobu's Jinchuriki. Granted, this very well might not be the case. It really depends on how the mist sealed the Three-Tails inside of her. But I've always assumed that she was knocked unconscious, or
and it was forced upon her.
Genjutsu, or something like that would have kept her from observing the sealing process. Since the success of the plan hinges on Rin willingly returning to Konoha, it just makes no sense to clue her in on any of the details. Even if Rin wasn't told why she was made into a Jinchuriki, figuring it out wouldn't be too hard. The beach are extremely valuable resources.
They're very strong, like everyone wants them,
inside of an enemy ninja, they probably have to have something like this very exact same plan in mind. Now, the reason this is all important is because I think that as long as Rin stays out of Konoha, saving her is very doable. The seal just needs to hold out for long enough for Minato to be able to rendezvous with his team, and Rin should be good to go from there. For those of you who may have forgotten, Minato is one of the best users of Fuin Jutsu in the entire world,
he is master of seals.
He's explicitly shown doing is reinforcing the seal used to contain the Nine
Definitely.
Tails within Naruto. I should also add that Minato pulled this off from beyond the grave by sealing a portion of his own chakra inside of Naruto. It was this manifestation of his chakra that reinforced the seal, and this was when the Nine Tails was well on its way.
Yeah, it was nearly there, wasn't it?
So
he managed to seal that.
To keep the Three Tails contained should be light work for him. Of course, there is a chance that Minato wouldn't be able to show up in time, but even if the Three Tails did manage to break free, he should be more than capable of containing it single-handedly. The issue with this is that a Three Tails rampage would probably lead to Rin's death, which itself would lead to Obito awakening his Mangekyo Sharingan, and also probably to him returning to Madara's cave, though there is a chance that Minato and Kakashi would at least be able to talk him out of it. It's definitely up in the air, though, so we'll just have to hope that Minato shows up in time to get the Three Tails under control. Otherwise, there's a very real chance that effectively nothing changes, and
it's just
the series just proceeds as it originally did. Now, assuming Minato does show up to save the day, which is very plausible considering he gave Kakashi one of his kunai, this is where things start to get really, really different. It's hard to say for sure, of course, but I feel like this would completely transform the final stages of the war. Not because Obito or Rin would be able to help the Leaf beat everyone up or whatever, but because because I think that once everyone realizes that the Leaf has an extra Biju at its disposal, the politics surrounding the war
definitely.
I think it's very likely
Jeez,
that
a lot
the
more
Mist
tension
demands
surrounding
that the Three
Konoha.
Tails be returned to them as part of their terms for negotiating peace. But whether or not the Leaf would
Actually do it,
to do it is pretty ambiguous. I don't even think the Leaf would necessarily have a problem with returning the Three Tails if Rin didn't have to die in the process. And
Yeah.
if Rin was just a no-name ninja with like no connections, this may not even be a factor, and the Leaf would probably just decide to do it anyway. But when considering the fact that Minato was arguably the Leaf's most important asset in the whole war, and she's one of his students, they would probably never follow through with a deal like this. It also wouldn't be hard at all to make an argument in favor of keeping the Three Tails. Like, under these circumstances, the Mist would have plain and simple fumbled the bag, and it would have been entirely their fault. Not to mention, the whole reason they lost it is because they were trying to do something pretty heinous and awful. By just about any reasonable moral standard, their plan could be safely considered not nice.
Not nice.
Now, since this is a world war, peace negotiations could work all sorts of different ways. It could be on a village-to-village basis. There could be a summit like the one Hashirama called around
That'd be cool.
the first Great Ninja War. It's really up in the air. But whatever the circumstances are, they're definitely going to have an effect on the whole Three Tails situation. If the peace negotiations happen at like a summit, for example, and it's either we all agree on everything
or we
don't agree
at all.
anything
Yeah.
type of situation, then the other villages may pressure the Leaf into giving Isobu back to the Mist so that everybody can go home and nobody else has to die. It depends on how badly and how quickly each of the five great nations wants to end the war, or at the very least pull out of the war themselves, and also on how uncomfortable they are with the idea of Konoha having an extra Biju. But it's also very possible that at least one or two of the other villages will want to avoid getting on the Leaf's bad side because of how dominant they were throughout the Third War. Based on what we know,
strong.
especially if we take filler
Don't mess with.
The Stones specifically had a really hard time fighting against Konoha, and both the Sand and Cloud villages had recently lost their Kazekage and Raikage respectively, so I think it's a lot more likely that all three of them will probably want to pull out of the war on an individual basis,
Definitely.
and may even agree to an alliance with Konoha if that's what it takes to get a peace treaty signed. If that's what ends up happening, then the Mist Village will eventually have to back down and accept whatever terms are laid out by the Leaf in order
You ain't getting that third Three Tails, you ain't getting that Jinchuriki.
Alliance. Speaking of the Mist Village, by the time we reach a point in this timeline where the original series would have began, their history should look noticeably different. Primarily because A, since Yagura would no longer be the Three Tails Jinchuriki, it's very possible that he wouldn't become Mizukage in the first place, and B, because Obito wouldn't be there controlling whoever the new Mizukage is from the shadows, since he'd be back home in Konoha. Now, it's unclear exactly how responsible the Obito-controlled Yagura was for all the Blood Mist stuff, since they were being referred to as the Blood Mist before he should have been able to take power. So I guess it depends on who ends up taking over after the third Mizukage.
This is really interesting. It changes so much stuff outside. I thought I was just focusing on Konoha and that. Whoa.
This could lead to all sorts of differences from the original timeline. Like, for example, Kisame may never end up defecting from the Mist Village if it gets its act together, and he certainly wouldn't join the Akatsuki because he'd never end up meeting Obito. Speaking of the Akatsuki, it's also possible, though not particularly likely, that Danzo will end up losing interest in the Hidden Rain Village once he learns that the Leaf is now in possession of the Three Tails. News like this may be major enough to cause him to leave the Rain Village entirely so he can go back to the Land of Fire and keep an eye on Rin. Without Danzo in the Rain Village for an extended period of time, Hanzo may never end up being convinced that he should be afraid of the Akatsuki. Thus, Yahiko may never end up dying, Nagato may never end up crippled, and the Akatsuki may even end up establishing an alliance with Hanzo like the group originally intended. There are a lot of maybes there, though, so it is still totally possible.
Well, yeah, that's what happens with a what-if scenario, though, isn't it? You don't know the whole, effects.
Regardless, the Akatsuki is going to look a lot different one way or another, because Obito won't be there to mess with it. Itachi will probably never become a member because, well, in order to explain that, let's talk about how this affects Konoha. So I already talked about a lot of this in my What If Minato Never Died video, but as long as the Leaf doesn't assume that the Uchiha clan was behind the Nine Tails attack, they probably don't have to worry about being completely exterminated. And since in this timeline there won't be a Nine Tails attack, since Obito won't be carrying out the
he's not there.
Unless something else happens that's like really big and really incriminates the clan, they probably won't have anything to
So
worry
Itachi doesn't
about.
kill the
Now,
clan.
this may go without saying, but in this timeline, the Leaf Village would be pretty stacked. They'd have Minato,
Jesus.
Hiruzen, the Uchiha clan, 2 Biju, and included in the Uchiha clan, by the way, would be Obito with the enhancements he received from Madara. So I think it's safe to say that they'd be pretty
They
safe.
got
I
some
can't imagine
powerful,
any of the
like,
5
people up
nations
there.
would want to declare
Damn.
war on them. The only group they'd really have to worry about is the Rain Village, but with Minato as the Hokage, and by the way, this is Minato with like 12 to 16 extra years worth of training.
Oh god, yeah, so Sage Mode's alright for him.
They should be able to handle anything that's thrown at them. It's hard to speculate about anything else, including what the Leaf would do with the information that Madara was still alive, without venturing into complete fanfic territory. So
yeah.
I think this is a good place to end the video. Hope you guys enjoyed.
That was cool.
And as always, thanks for watching. Take care.
Damn, that was awesome. That was really cool. I've noticed while he's done another video. I'm really playing catch up here. Damn, it's like I don't know what, which I think will be funny. It's CBR. I've done a ranking of the Akatsuki, and he's just put wrong edition. So I think that'll be interesting. I like when he does he debunked like 20 characters that could defeat Sasuke, or can't remember what it was. But yeah, that was a really interesting what if scenario, wasn't it? Bloody hell, it changes like everything. Like even the little bits in different places, like certain characters won't go certain ways because certain events wouldn't happen. That was a really good what if scenario. I like it. Oh, I need to buy a light bulb. Do you know what? The lighting's probably going to be like this for a few videos. I'm just going to be honest, because I record my videos in the morning, then go to work all day, and then I have an hour when I get back from work to like do bits, and then wake up in the morning again to do this. That's kind of been my routine. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments down below, let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys. It's annoying me, look, I can do like shadow puppets on the wall. See you guys next time.